Howdy, howdy. Good to see you. Glad you're here today, especially if you're worshiping with us in Fremont and Miller. Glad you're a part of it. Fremont folks, and this for you too, we're doing this Splash Park thing, and it really is not for us. We can go to Splash Park anytime, that's no big deal. We like the Fremont Splash Park a lot, but this is for your neighbors and your friends in that community. We want you to invite them to come with you, and it's free. We're picking it up, and it's going to be a lot of fun. We're not going to do anything weird at that event, like mass baptisms or like, hey, everybody in the pool. We're not doing that, but we're just going to have a good time. We are still doing our very best to introduce ourselves to the Fremont community, and we think this will be a lot of fun, a great way to do it. Omaha, Millard folks, you are welcome to go, and we hope that you will do that. Invite your friends to come with you. It's not that far out there, and it is on the east side of town, and so it's a pretty quick drive right up to Fremont. Love to have you go with us, meet some new people. We have a lot of people who are new to StoneBridge, check things out here in the summertime, move into our communities, and this is a great way to maybe meet some new people, and hope you'll do that. So, all right, here we go. One of my favorite movies is Indiana Jones and the Raiders of the Lost Ark. I still really like that movie. And, unfortunately, I think a lot of us get our theology from the Raiders of the Lost Ark. It's like, hey, but it basically is about the fact that the Nazis want to get the Ark of the Covenant because they believe that if they possess the Ark, because they read the Bible, that if you possess the Ark, the power of God will be with you and your armies cannot be defeated. Well, we get wind of that, and we do not want the Nazis to have that, so we enlist Indiana Jones, an archaeology guy and a person of great adventure, and you got to go help us and find this and track this down, and so they do. And that last scene where they open up the ark and there's all this cool stuff going on and then faces are melting. It is a pretty powerful thing. Now, in the Ark of the Covenant, there's three things in the ark. First of all, the 10 Commandments are in there, and that is the commandments that God gave to Moses on the mountain, right? Here's the 10 laws. These are the 10 big laws that I want you to live by as a nation, as a people of God. This is how we're going to do life. This is what we're about. This is how we're going to govern ourselves. And so the 10 Commandments were reminded of God's law. They are in the Ark of the Covenant. Also, there was some manna that was saved to put in there. Manna was given by God to the nation of Israel as they wandered in Egypt or in the wilderness. And every single day, God would provide enough food for the nation, and this bread from heaven was given. And so they put some bread in there to remind them every single day. They were reminded when they look at the Ark of the Covenant that God would take care of their needs. It was this, give us this day our daily bread kind of stuff. And God says, I will absolutely do that for you. Another thing that was in the Ark of the Covenant was Aaron's rod, his staff that he had, and they kept that. We'll talk a little bit about that here, kind of like, why is that in there? But the Ark of the Covenant was the center of the worship of the nation of Israel. It was mobile. You could move it. So when the nation moved, the ark moved. And every Israelite tent, because they're nomadic, every Israelite tent opened up to the Ark of the Covenant. It faced the Ark of the Covenant. So when you woke up in the morning, you were reminded at the center of our lives is God. You opened it up and there he is. That's it. That's where the presence and the power of God is. After Moses and Aaron led the nation of Israel out of Egypt, Aaron was set apart and his family, and they were to be the priests of Israel. One of the most famous stories about Aaron's rod begins when a few folks become disgruntled with Moses and Aaron's leadership. It's just kind of like right after, it's like, who put you guys in charge? Why are you guys in charge? People were like, I think we need to get new leadership. You guys been in charge for a while. We need new leadership. And you say God put you in charge, but how do we know that God put you in charge? Maybe you're just saying that. So in Numbers 16:28, Moses said, this is how you will know that the Lord has sent me to do all these things that I have done. For I have not done them on my own, right? If these men die, so if these disgruntled people die a natural death, or if nothing unusual happens, then the Lord has not sent me. But if the Lord does something entirely new, and the ground opens its mouth and swallows them and all their belongings, and they go down alive into the grave, then you will know that these men have shown contempt for the Lord. So here's the deal. If the Lord takes, it's like you guys who are causing problems and dissension among our nation, this is how we're going to know. If the Lord opens up the earth and you get swallowed, they're like, okay, whatever, but we need to keep reading. He had hardly finished speaking the words when the ground suddenly split open beneath them. The earth opened its mouth, swallowed the men along with their households and their followers and who were standing with them and everything they owned. So they went down alive into the grave along with their belongings, and the earth closed over them, and they all vanished from among the people of Israel. Now you would think that would be enough, right? They're like, oh yeah, we're really sorry. No, actually not. A few folks were like, well, that just might have just happened. We still don't know why you, Moses, and you, Aaron, are in charge. We think we need new leadership. We're tired of the same old thing, the kind of same old stuff. We want new leaders. And so to put an end to the unrest, God used Aaron's rod as a miracle. God told Moses to have the leaders of all the 12 tribes bring the leader's rod to the tent, and they were to write their names on it so they wouldn't get lost, right? And actually, it's like, we're going to do something here with these sticks, and you need to put your name on it, and we're going to put them in a room, and the next morning, if God has done something miraculous to one of these guys, we'll know that that is the leader, right? Because and that's what they did. Interesting. Number 17, verse 5. Buds will sprout on the staff belonging to the man I choose. Then I will finally put an end to the people's murmurings, complaining against you. This should do it, right? It wasn't enough that we swallowed them up, but if we can make the sticks do something cool, then we'll know. But that's what they're doing. So Moses gave the instructions to the people of Israel. Each of the 12 tribal leaders, including Aaron, brought Moses a staff. Moses placed the staffs in the Lord's presence in the tabernacle of the covenant. And when he went into the tabernacle of the covenant the next day, he found that Aaron's staff, representing the tribe of Levi, had sprouted, budded, blossomed, and produced ripe almonds. So here it is. They bring out the 12 staffs. Aaron's, with his name on it, has budded and sprouted, and they produced almonds. So there was great joy, right? Almond joy in the nation. Because sometimes you do. You feel like a nut. So that's how they settled the stuff there. Now, kind of fast forward. David is now king. And he is the king of a united kingdom. Saul is dead. But the results of his life still echo throughout the kingdom. In the later part of his 40-year reign, Saul had compromised his faith in God and dabbled in the occult, just kind of played around with it. The Ark of the Covenant had been missing from the nation of Israel. It had been captured and forgotten about. So the presence of God, literally, just kind of, not symbolically, but literally had exited the nation of Israel. They were no longer paying attention to the prophet's voice. They were not seeking God in any way. And so the presence of God had departed. The Ark of the Covenant was portable and had been placed in the tabernacle, so every Hebrew would face and worship the Ark. It was the holy place. But David realizes the nation of Israel had been spiritually on a slow decline. No central place of worship. Their hearts were far from God. Again, here's people complaining, right, to Moses and Aaron that they must have lied about the fact that they were to be the spiritual guides of the nation. Now, every detail about the ark was important to God, even how it was supposed to be transported and carried and dealt with. And so David, they go and they are able to capture the ark. They know where it is, and they capture it. And now they are going to bring it to Jerusalem, the city of David, and they are going to celebrate and worship there. And this is where David gets in a little trouble, is that, hey, we got this ark. We need to get it back to the city. And they put it on a cart. And there's a little problem here with how the ark is being transported. 2 Samuel chapter 6, verse 7. But when they arrived at the threshing floor of Nacon, the oxen stumbled who were pulling it. And Uzzah reached out his hand and steadied the ark of God. Then the Lord's anger was aroused against Uzzah, and God struck him dead because of this. So Uzzah died right there beside the ark of God. So the ark is being transported. The oxen have a little trouble with their footing, and things get a little rocky. And Uzzah's walking by there, and Uzzah's not a part of the Levite. He's not a part of the tribe. But he sees this happening, and he does probably what you and I would have done. Oh no, let's not let the ark of the covenant fall and break. Steadies it. As a result of that, because they were told, nobody's supposed to touch this. They had poles that the ark was to go on and carry and all that stuff, and they had obviously had forgotten about that. And so Uzzah dies. Uzzah dies right there. And that seems a little harsh, right? We think, he was just trying to protect the ark, God. What is your big problem with him? It's like, he shouldn't have had to die for that. I mean, I think we can all agree that's a little excessive. Calm down. We're doing a good thing here. We're getting the ark back in its right place in the center of our lives and our worship, and you should be happy about this, not mad about this. What's your big problem, God? And David, by the way, is miffed at God. He's very upset that God would kill Uzzah over this. And so we see here in verse 10, so David decided not to move the ark and the Lord in the city of David. I'll show you. You can't just be killing Uzzah for no real good reason. Instead, he took it to the house of Obed-Edom of Gath. So he says, I'm just going to store it here for a while in Obed-Edom's house. He's close. I don't know why they picked him. The ark of the Lord remained there in Obed-Edom's house for 3 months. And check this out. And the Lord blessed Obed-Edom and his entire household. So, bless little Obed-Edom's heart. He's like, this is sweet. I'm winning lottery things. I'm doing great. I'm having a blast. God is blessing our family. Why? Because the Ark of the Covenant is in my house. And this goes on for 3 months. And David hears about it. So we better bring this back. So verse 12 says, the King David was told the Lord has blessed Obed-Edom's household with everything he has because of the Ark of God. So David went there and brought the Ark of God from the house of Obed-Edom to the city of David with great celebration. Now, probably during that 3-month period of time, my guess is that the spiritual advisors to David says, well, I know you're upset about Uzzah, and I can get that, but God had very specific instructions on how to care for the ark, what it was made of, how it's supposed to be transported, what's in there. It's very detailed. It's very important that we follow this. And if we don't follow this, this is very serious. If it wasn't serious, God would not have said it. He wouldn't have said, here's what I want you to make it out of, here's what I want in it, and here's how I want it transported. He wouldn't have had to say that. But because he has said that, it's obviously serious to God. So now David goes back to the ark with the proper instructions and with the proper people and with the proper method of carrying the ark. Why? Because David is a man after God's own heart. I think David was maybe he didn't know how to supposed to do this, but obviously somebody did. But David just maybe said, God, I'm going to move the ark. I've got it. I'm fine. We're fine. We're going to use I know you said to use some poles, but we're going to use some ox and some stuff, and we should be able to get it there. No big deal, no problem. You ever do that with God? Where you say to God, I know you said this, but I got it. I think I got it. I think we'll be fine. But now David realizes things, and he does want to make things right and put things back in the proper perspective here. So here we see in verse 13, after the men who were carrying the ark of the Lord had gone 6 steps, David sacrificed a bull and a fatted calf. Only 6 steps. David danced before the Lord with all his might, wearing a priestly garment. So David and all the people of Israel brought up the ark of the Lord with shouts of joy and blowing of ram's horns. But as the ark of the Lord entered the city of David, Michal, the daughter of Saul, looked down from her window. When she saw King David leaping and dancing before the Lord, she was filled with contempt for him. They brought the ark of the Lord and set it in its place inside the special tent David had prepared for it. And David sacrificed burnt offerings and peace offerings to the Lord. When he finished his sacrifices, David blessed the people in the name of the Lord of heaven's armies. Then he gave to every Israelite man and women in the crowd a loaf of bread, a cake of dates, and a cake of raisins. Then all the people returned to their homes. When David returned home to bless his own family, Michal, the daughter of Saul, came out to meet him. She said in disgust, "How distinguished the king of Israel looked today, shamelessly exposing himself to the servant girls like any vulgar person might do." So here they bring in the Ark of the Covenant back into the nation of Israel, into the center of their lives. It's an incredible time of celebration. The Bible says that David worshiped him with all his might. Think about it. What would that have looked like? I mean, we're told occasionally to do, we're told in Ecclesiastes, to whatever we find our hands to do, we should do it with all our might. So here is David worshiping and dancing and singing. And the reason he is able to do that is because I think he's being obedient. He's being obedient. He's free. So David could not help but worship with all his might. It was honest, intense. It was not made up. It wasn't phony. It wasn't manufactured. Now, not everybody's thrilled with David's worship. His public display of affection for God was called into question by Michal. Michal's bothered by it. David is showing his love and appreciation for God, and she says, "Well, some king you are. Have you lost your mind? You're out of control. You're embarrassing yourself, your family, your kingdom." Now, Michal's Saul's daughter. Saul was the king before David. My guess is she was implying, my dad would have never done that. And she was right. He would have never done that. He would have never lowered himself to that level. David's response was a classic. If you just keep reading through that, this is what he says to Michal. "If you think today was something, just wait till you see me tomorrow. I have just begun to embarrass you. I will become even more undignified. You might stand on the sideline of judgment, but I have gotten lost in the wonder and the grace of God." So when it comes to worship, as a heart of a worshiper, would you say you're a little bit more like David or a little bit more like Michal? You come to church and you sing and you do stuff, and you're like, do you have a little bit more of a Michal attitude? You look around, you see a few people doing some stuff, and you go, well, that's embarrassing. I would never be caught dead doing that. Seems a little weird. Now, obviously, our worship is not massively expressive at times. I can get a little bit like this, but, and I'm not asking you to be weird or do something like this, right? But what I'm asking you to do is that occasionally, do you get lost a little bit, just a little bit in the wonder and the grace of God? Where almost time kind of stands still for you just a little bit, and you sense his presence and his power in your life. There was a song that I sang when I was a kid that went like this: "Finish then thy new creation, pure and spotless let us be. Let us see thy great salvation, perfectly restored in thee. Changed from glory into glory, till in heaven we take our place, till we cast our crowns before thee, lost in wonder, love, and grace." I love that last little phrase. I believe that's where David was. He had gotten lost in the wonder and the love and the praise of God. He was so captured by the fact that God was now finally in the place of honor in his life. He was obeying him, and he was doing exactly what he was been told to do. And that the presence of God was being ushered back into the place of honor in the nation. He just got lost in that for a moment. Sometimes when we come in here, I hear things like this. I say, well, I've come to worship. Yeah, I get that. We sing worship songs and those things. But obviously, it's kind of thinking like, well, God's somewhere right up here. We place him in here, and we do a little half hour of singing, and then we are able to leave here because we don't transport him anymore. Right? He's here in the room, in the tabernacle, and for a half hour, maybe or so, we worship God. You see, that system is gone. The system of coming to worship is God. The presence of God isn't confined to a box. It's in me. And I am to be about worshiping him all the time. By the way, if he becomes the center of your life, where worship is mobile and he's always with me, and I put him in a place that's visible in my life, and he's right in the middle of my life, that there will be some folks, when I rearrange my life so that God is now the center of my life in worship, right? He's the center of my life, that there will be some folks in your life that will think that you are undignified, that you're embarrassing yourself, and that you should calm down, tone it down. For instance, we had 25 people from our church go to Ecuador, and I think they were 10 days, and they came up with over $3,000 a piece to go on this trip and do that stuff, and that's a massive commitment, and many of them blew their whole entire year vacation on this trip, right? So they don't get it. That's it. They aren't going anywhere else. This is what they decided to do. And so, my guess is that they took that bunch of money and they spent the wad. And my guess is that there's some people in their family that think they're dumb, that truly thought that was a colossal waste of money and time. And now you won't be able to go on a vacation. Now you could have taken that money and done something else. You could have, right? You could have done it. And my guess is that there will be some people that call into question your priorities, your values. Well, now you're not going to have money for this. Now you're not going to have money for that. Now you're not going to have money for that. All right? Here's what I want you to say. You have not seen anything yet. I have just begun to rearrange my life in such a way that it probably will make you go, those people are crazy. You see, I think now after being a part of that, I really need to rearrange my life even more so to the God is at the center of my life. I'm going to start tithing. What? Yeah, I am going to start volunteering. What? I'm going to start what? I have just become a little bit more, I'm now going to work with middle school kids. What? I'm now going to, what? And people in your family are going to think you are the craziest people on the planet. See, if we just dink around a little bit with our worship with God, nobody's going to bother us. In fact, they might even think it's kind of quaint. It's nice that you go to church. I think that what you're doing is nice. That's good for you. That's good. But if you start putting the Word of God first and obeying Him completely, I think you will truly be misunderstood. So do you want to know what the very best proof of your love for Jesus is? It's obedience. It's taking His Word seriously. Now, we say that around here a lot. We take the Bible very seriously. We just don't take ourselves too seriously. So those instructions that God has given to us, we might think, I got it, God. I know you said this, but I got it. I know you said this, but I got it. I know you got these 10 rule things, but really, are you sure? This is a little bit more effective and quicker, and is it really that big a deal? Really? Obedience to his instructions. And when we pay attention to the things that God considers important, we will discover obedience is the key to being lost in wonder, love, and praise. Is it time to bring the Lord back to the center of our lives? If we want to be a man or a woman after God's own heart, he now needs to have the prominence of being at the very center, the core of our life. All right, let's pray. I thank you so much today that you live inside of us. And we don't have to go to a place of worship to know you're there. But wow, isn't it? It has been so great to be here today, and be at the center of corporate experience and worship, and hear songs of love and wonder and praise. And to, for a little while, just get lost in it. But we don't want to be so far removed that we're ineffective, we no longer have power. So thank you so much that when we leave here, we're bringing you with us. We're not going to leave you here. You are not confined by a box or a building or a location. So do. We worship you. Come fill this place. Christ we pray. Amen.